Hello everyone and welcome back to a best-of-5 series of professional StarCraft 2. Today it's time for the grand finals of the ESL Open Cup Americas 134. It's time for a Zerg versus Protoss, where in game number 1 of this series, we find ourselves on Moondance. Now, spawning here in the top left-hand corner of the map and playing with the yellow Zerg drones from South Korea, we have none other than Dark. And his opponent in the opposite corner, actually representing North America from the United States, we are looking at Neeb's main Nexus. Alrighty, now, I'm sure that everyone watches every single one of my videos, right? You guys would never skip a video of mine, right? Anyways, just on the off chance that you have, I did cast Dark in the most recent 2 casts that I did on my YouTube channel as well. And usually, I leave a little bit more time in between featuring, you know, the same players again as well, because, well, there's a lot of players out there in StarCraft 2, and I want to give, you know, hopefully a spotlight on as many players as I can. Here's the thing, though. The last 2 videos in which I casted Dark, so the last 2 videos that I've uploaded where I casted StarCraft 2, those have also been my best performing videos recently, so I want to see if we can go 3 for 3. I'm just curious, and I want to check out what happened in the grand finals. So we'll see exactly what ended up going down in this Zerg versus Protoss, but there's no denying, I don't want to spoil the other games, but at the very least, there's no denying that Dark is looking very strong right now. I casted an absolute banger where he went up against Maru, and then possibly an even better game where he went up against Bjorn. I'll leave links to those down below in the description of this video. Those were really good games of StarCraft 2, but anyways. I've been casting a lot of individual games lately, so I figured today, let us have a look at a series, and lo and behold, once again, Dark is in the grand finals. Dark definitely looking very strong. Neeb likewise as well, though. Neeb is a very, very strong Protoss player. He was, at the very least, contemplating retirement a little while ago. So he stopped being part of Team Ting, which is the team that he was with for a very long time, or at the very least, like, that was his main sponsor. And at some point, he decided to join Onsite earlier this year, which is another top-tier team in StarCraft 2. They have players like, for example, Maru, right? That's pretty good. And Neeb, ever since then, has honestly looked better than he has in a very long time. He's, especially at, like, Home Story Cup, some of his games were incredibly impressive. So even though I am leaning towards Dark in this match, I do think that there's a very good chance that Neeb can, well, at the very least win a couple of maps and maybe even the series. Guess we'll find out together. Standard openers here from the both of them so far. Dark opting to go for the further forward third base. Couldn't take his natural, but he'll do so in just a second because that pesky probe obviously was being annoying. At the very least, that's what I'm assuming happened. There's also this pocket expansion, but that one only features 6 mineral fields as well as a single gas geyser, so usually not as ideal. Adept already available, Neeb almost inviting those Zerglings into the base, but Dark was paying attention right there with that Overlord, exactly what was popping out of the gateway, so he knew that there was an Adept out there somewhere, and he does not sacrifice the Zerglings. It's gonna be a Stargate opener right here from our American. One thing to note, I suppose, actually, for this particular series, is that it is the grand finals of the American version of the ESL Open Cup, right? So, ping advantage should be here for Neeb. And secondly, time zone advantage should also be here for Neeb. Actually, let me look that up real quick. Yeah, so as far as I can tell, this series started 9 p.m. on the East Coast. If I'm not mistaken, that's where Neeb lives. However, that's also about 10 a.m. in Korea. So 10 a.m. the next day. What I'm getting at is that Dark at this point has been playing all throughout the night. So, yeah, these tournaments obviously take a little while, and obviously he knew what he signed up for. There's a very good chance that someone like Dark makes it deep into the tournament, but there's no denying that, even though the ping advantage is significant, I think the time zone advantage may even be... Why are these Zerglings almost green? Look at that. Am I crazy? That's almost like a greenish hue on that yellow. Maybe I need to calibrate my monitor. I'm not entirely sure. It looks nothing like the yellow right there at the bottom of the screen, though. Anyhow. Roachhorn coming up here for Dark. Couple of oracles available as well for Neeb. I'm gonna send those across the map right now. Alright. No damage done here just yet for the American Protoss. But let's see if he can actually change that, right? So, well, good control right there by Dark. The Adepts do commit actually to the back of the third base. There's no Spore Crawler over here. The Queens were actually chasing those oracles quite deep. So that's a good amount of damage being done. 5 workers, not bad whatsoever. Would really love to see a Spore Crawler coming up. He's actually just... Yeah, he's just made a single Spore Crawler over there. The thing about skipping Spore Crawlers is that it's great if you're really good at the game, like, for example, Dark, and you can actually reliably defend your bases. However, if you make a little mistake, right, if you're a ladder hero like me, you're probably better off just making the spores. Oh god. He did not mineral walk those. That's a lot of damage. Considering this is a double Oracle opener, that is a very healthy amount of drone kills right there for just 2 of those Oracles and 2 of those Adepts. Dark actually now doubling down on the unit production, interestingly enough. Still no lair either, right? No. He does not have a lair, so... We're gonna go for a bit of an aggressive opener then, huh? A bit of a cheesy version of this. I don't know if this is Dark saying, okay, I've taken too much damage. I need to go ahead and get something done. Well, getting 1 Oracle kill at this point in the game is not bad whatsoever. But he is marching everything he's got towards the other side of the map. Keep in mind, Queens did get nerfed a couple of months ago. Well, a little bit longer at this point, but they can no longer transfuse off creep. Obviously, you can bring creep to watch the other side of the map. That's a lot of shield batteries. You can bring creep to watch the other side of the map if you, well, have, you know, lair tech, right? Overlord speed, maybe, I don't know, a Nidus Worm, something like that, right? But he does not have that option. This is a hatchery tech-based push, so this is Dark trying to see if he can win the game right here, right now. This is an awful lot of Zerg, though. Obviously, sniping that Oracle also kind of hurts, but I'm looking at the... Okay, you already rebuilt the cybernetics core over there. I am looking at the amount of shield batteries. He did restart a couple additional ones here, or I guess he did start up an additional one right over there in the back of the mineral line before that cybernetics core fell. That's super important. At this point, it's just Zealot Warpins. Blink is going to finish up here in about half a minute time as well. Yeah, so far, honestly, this is a very clean hold. Protoss is just about to hit a very significant power spike with +1 and then also Blink. Zealot's in the front right now, tanking as much damage as possible. I love that shield battery attempt. Just trying to create as much chaos as possible, because I believe that the longer that this game goes on, the easier this is going to be for Neeb. And yeah, since there's no reason for those Queens to start marching back home, because they would just get chased down by those Stalkers, it's Neeb who obtains the victory in map number 1. I was curious to see how that would work out. Because that build, the Queen push at Hatchery Tech, it's not commonly played anymore in StarCraft 2 at all. Specifically because the Queens got nerfed and they can no longer transfuse off creep, right? I was wondering how that build was gonna go, and even though I think that was almost like the best case scenario there for Dark, considering that Neeb did not see that, well, that attack was coming until he lost one of his Oracles, it still did not work out particularly well. Honestly, pretty much a flawless game right there from Neeb. Did he make any significant mistakes? Not that I could tell. I mean, he did lose 2 Adepts, I suppose, but he got like a dozen worker kills in combination with those Oracles. That is a trait you will take any day of the week. And then obviously he did not, you know, maybe he panicked a little bit, but he didn't make any mistakes while panicking when he saw that push coming across the map. He still like spaced out all of those shield batteries really, really well. His micro in the natural was stellar. His upgrades were obviously going to kick in, and he knew exactly, yeah, what kind of game he was playing. And honestly, that was a really clean, stellar defense right there from Neeb, so... he must be feeling pretty good about himself. I guess the Hatchery Tech Queen push is not as good as it once was, right? So, one of the reasons why those Oracle openers are so powerful right now is, well, because the Zerg, they can't really punish it as easily, right? So those Oracles are awesome because they give you a lot of utility. So for example, right? One of the main reasons why you make an Oracle is because you can defend your third base in case of a Zerg push, but secondly, you can also deal harassment damage on the other side of the map. A Void Ray can theoretically do the exact same thing. The difference is, though, that, well, obviously the Oracle is also useful later on into the game. For example, those stasis wards, with tagging the opponent's army. It's got a lot of utility. And, yeah, just dealing damage on the other side of the map and just defending your bases is not all they can do. So, those Oracle openers, I think we're going to see them for the foreseeable future. Doesn't seem like Zerg has any... very easy answer to deal with those units either, as long as Protoss controls them well. The Oracles should stay alive for quite a while, and yeah, it's cool that they've really become like a staple unit in this matchup over the last couple of months. Really cool. Anyway, I guess they always were very strong, right? It's just that I guess the Void Rays just sort of overshadowed them with how much stronger they actually were before they got nerfed again with the most recent balance patch. So I guess they were just sort of overshadowed. But once more, it is going to be that Stargate opener right here from Neeb. Unsurprisingly, this is what we see in most of the games of ZVP right now. Dark this time around was allowed to take his natural expansion first. He's decided to go for the third hatchery right now as a follow-up as well. Let's see if he's going to get greedy once more and skip a couple of those spore crawlers initially. In theory, a great idea. In execution, I'm still not sold on it. Usually we see Spore Crawlers coming up regardless. So, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna make them, I may as well make them a little bit earlier and save myself the headache and the potential of losing like half a dozen workers. But anyways, I wouldn't be surprised if Darko once again decides to delay those spores a little bit. He probably wants to use those, those minerals as efficiently as he possibly can and squeeze out another couple of queens. Alright. Oracle coming up. Are we already gonna take the third Nexus? I was gonna say, this probe seems a bit early. It's actually kind of fascinating how for the longest time, the third base, a pretty greedy third base, was considered to be at 5 minutes for Protoss, in Zerg vs Protoss that is. These days, we see it at like 350 at like latest, which is kind of funny, right? It's kind of ironic how that has changed over the years. So 340 something right here. There we go. 341, 342. 40 American Protoss player. I mean, it is relatively greedy, but because of the way that this setup is done, I mean, imagine Zerglings running here. You could technically target fire down the Nexus, but you would need a lot of Zerglings for it. The Adept over here has got a very small amount of service area where it can actually be attacked, and obviously on the back of it, it's got to be Oracles here. So you would need like 50 Zerglings in order to kill this or this Nexus, and at that point it is no longer worth it for the Protoss player, or for the Zerg player rather, to, yeah, commit that heavily into trying to get that snipe. Good positioning right there on that Overlord. Sees exactly where those Oracles are going to be flying in from. Okay, one Spore over at the third base, one Spore in the main base. Alright, 3 workers. Keep the Oracle alive. I mean, yeah, I don't really like seeing that much base damage, though, on that Oracle, right? A little bit of chipping away at that base health is maybe okay, but I think actually that was a little bit too aggressive right there from Neeb. Even though he did get 3 worker kills there, this Oracle is most likely going to die here a little bit later. Once more, though, we've got the same follow-up here. Although, I don't actually see... Never mind, this is not the same follow-up. I don't see a forge, and this is now already 6 additional gateways. Okay, we are going to continue making probes. I was wondering here for a second if maybe this would be, like, a 3-base all-in, where, like, the third Nexus is essentially a fake Nexus. But Neeb is adding on some workers for that Nexus as well. Dark obviously has scouted it, so... we'll see. Is he even going to go for another base? Are we going to make a proxy pylon? Maybe that's what we're doing. Where's this probe headed? Oh, it's right over there. Yeah. So he is going to plant down a proxy pylon here instead. This is a build that I've seen Neeb play a couple of times recently. I think that actually Hero is the one that really started playing this some time ago. Where you make this Luke like it is the conventional, well, currently conventional, blink into like a forge with upgrades and all that and do a very quick 4th base and all that. You make it look like it's exactly that build, but then you actually go for a 3-base all-in with tons of Stalkers here instead. Dark did make the appropriate amount of drones here, but he needs to be very careful. He decided to forego the +1 melee, which is really good against this particular build. Instead, he decided to go for the +1 missile, which is something that Sero has been favoring as well. It's very slow warp-ins, but he can warp in a lot of units here at once. An additional gateway as well. Alright, Zerglings in the meantime on the other side of the map, but the Oracles, as well as the Adepts, should be A-okay against that. So the reason why he's proxying the gateway is to try and get one of those speedy warp-in zones. As soon as that, like these warp-ins are pretty slow. But as soon as that gateway finishes up, it's gonna, well, superpower that battery, or that pylon right over there, and suddenly those Stalkers can come out a little bit quicker. Blink at this point is done. Alright, this is the first time I believe that Dark sees it as well. And honestly, this is a really good battle right now for the Protoss player. Dark has been desperately trying to make units, but he doesn't really have that much. Honestly, he's got very little. Yeah, he invested into that lair, and then also the Glial Reconstitution and the +1 missile attacks and all that, but none of that has really kicked in yet. So he spent a good chunk of resources. There finally those Zerglings do come home. I love the aggressive blink right there from Neeb. Yeah, using that base of the Zerg player to lower the surface area. And then now if he gets the snipe right there, okay, the Glial at the very least finishes up. But he did get the snipe right there on the Roach Warren. It's just going to be Zerglings right now on the back of this. Unless Zerg already did prepare another Roach Warren. I don't see one. Okay, Oracle here, man. Oracle already 13 kills in. Good blink control here as well by the American Protoss. Honestly, yeah, GG. Dominating performance here so far by the American. Cheeky little opener right there from Neeb. I personally love to see it. So, To clarify, I don't think that a 3-base Blink all-in is a particularly good strategy, right? If that's your go-to build order, I don't think it's particularly good. The thing is, the reason why it works is because of the current meta in Zerg versus Protoss. So over the last few months, we've seen that very common follow-up, right? Where Protoss players go for the Forge and then the Twilight Council, and then they go for the Blink upgrade, and then into Charge, and a very quick 4th Nexus, and all that. That is what Zerg players have been playing against for the majority of their games. And Neeb is like, okay, I'm gonna make it nearly impossible for you to scout my follow-up, but I'm still gonna need you to respond in a very specific manner if you don't want to lose within the next half minute or so. Right? It's one of those... Like, Zerg can technically scout it by, for example, going for double Overlords, right? So Dark is sending 2 Overlords across the map. Fair enough. You can technically scout it, but now, obviously, if Protoss would go for, like, a Phoenix build or a Void Ray opener or something like that, 2 Overlords would die, and at that point, you're actually quite far behind. So, at this point, Neeb is not just playing the mind game for just a single match, but also for the rest of the series. Because right now, Dark is thinking, okay, how could I have scouted that? Well, technically, you can go for Overlord speed, I suppose, but Overlord speed, at the very least, you know, it always feels like it's about as expensive as a lair, so you may as well go for the Overseer Scout, but the Overseer Scout is also quite late, so it's always a bit of a tricky conundrum you find yourself in if you're a Zerg player here, so I don't think that Dark is going to change all too much, but he might opt to go for like an extra round of Zerglings or so. Maybe go for a bit of a faster +1 melee, because the +1 melee really does help out against those sort of openers. Anyhow, once again, a Stargate opener here from Neeb, unsurprisingly. Start hatchery planted in the low ground expansion. Makes a lot of sense. 1 Overlord here, just scouting the gases. Alright. I was gonna say, that doesn't really do you very much. I would love it if Neeb decided to go for a Phoenix first here. That would be really sick. Or a Void Ray. I'd be okay with that too. I mean, he has the money. Yep, it's a Void Ray first. I don't know if he has seen double Overlord scouts at this point. He probably has. Anyways, I think going for a Void Ray here is quite clever, because you're going to get yourself 2 Overlords. If you can get yourself 2 Overlords for 1 Void Ray, I think it's pretty good. Like, Oracles obviously don't have an air-to-air ability, right? So they can't pop those units. This is going to put Dark completely in. Haha, the Dark. I know. He will not have any knowledge of what the follow-up is going to be from the Protoss player. Could be a second Stargate, could just be an Oracle. Well, I guess he sees the Oracle at the very least, but now at this point you're wondering, okay, is this going to be a mind game? Because this guy is already playing tricks on me the entire time. Could he just be starting up an Oracle and then canceling the Oracle to go for another Void Ray and maybe another Stargate? Alright. That's another Overlord, though. Even though it's flying away, that's not an Overlord that will definitely end up going down. Alright. I guess seeing the Oracle, though, is going to be quite sweet. I don't think he saw it right there. Oh, that's a little bit awkward. Oh, God. Okay, he does have a Zergling patrolling back and forth. I thought he was going to see the Oracle. That's going to make, at the very least, the follow-up here a little bit more straightforward. Neeb not really trying to hide anything, though, in this game. He could have saved up a couple Oracles and then went for it instead, but he probably thought he got spotted by that Zergling. Anyhow. 2 Creep Tumors. Not bad. Dark going for the Evolution Chamber again. It's uncommon, though, in a game of StarCraft 2 or in a best-of-5 series of StarCraft 2 for someone to come back after a 2-0 deficit. Dark would have to win the next 3 maps, including this one. +1 melee this time around. Okay, I like that a lot. +1 melee is going to be pretty sweet. Good amount of drone kills once again. 7 drones here in total. Not bad. That is something that the Zerg player is probably not too unused to, though. It's hard to prevent losing any workers against this sort of opener, even with the amount of queens that he built. So he made 7 queens and a bunch of spore crawlers and everything. Still ends up losing quite a bit. Ah, a Bingling Nest. Interesting. Well, there's the Blink. There's the Forge. There's the 3rd Nexus. And a Robo Facility. So Neeb definitely planning on playing a bit of a different game this time around. Not Mass Gateway Unit at the very least just yet. Well, I mean, he can still go for Mass Gateway Unit and just treat this as like a... Like an, what do you call it? Like a War Prism spawner, right? Or a Observer spawner, something along those lines. Queens are going to be pretty sweet, though, at this point. And keep in mind, it's a +1 melee opener from Dark this time, right? So +1 melee is going to be quite a bit better. Yeah, losing these Stalkers would kind of suck here for the Protoss. That being said, I mean, there's still Oracles. That Void Ray is helping out quite a bit as well. +1 melee not done just yet. I don't know. Like, sure, there was a couple of Stalkers. Okay, maybe if he gets the rest of it. I don't think that was really too good, to be honest. So 4 Stalkers right there. 28 Zerglings ended up going down. I think that is a worthwhile trade. We once again, by the way, just see mass unit production here. Yeah, okay, a couple additional drones here on the back of this too, but Dark does once more find himself at a deficit right now when it comes to the worker count. These Zerglings should be able to at the very least kill a few of those Stalkers. Well, if they commit, that is. That Void Ray is actually super helpful. Banelings were produced. Okay, good micro here once again by the American Protoss. He does see the Banelings right here on the left side as well. A couple of additional Stalkers get warped in over at the third base. Is he going to be able to pick those off? Beautiful walling here. Very nice SimCity by Neeb. Butte. I wanted to say Butte and Dude at the same time, but that was a perfect defense right there from Neeb. Not a very cost-efficient trade there from the Zerg player whatsoever. And now suddenly, Neeb can actually start putting his foot on the gas if he wants to. Yeah, I think he wanted to play a bit of a slower-paced game. I mean, still a very quick 4th Nexus, of course, but I don't think he wanted to go for a super aggressive Stalker push this time around. He does have the option now. Charge is finishing up. With +1 ground weapons here for Protoss, Zealots only take 2 attacks to kill a Zergling rather than 3, which is very significant. Zerg is going for double upgrades, but no carapace in there, so he cannot actually nullify that effect here anytime soon. Alright. Neeb actually setting up another wall over here. Interesting. Haven't seen that wall before on Inside and Out. Walling this over here is not too surprising, but walling this little section over here is kind of cute. Anyways, that means that his main exit right now is going to be right over here. He does need a little bit of detection. Yeah. Another base already coming up as well on the right side of the map. Zealot warping in the main base in the meantime as well. Alright. Getting a good bit of damage done. Stalkers right now running on over towards the right side of the map as well. And suddenly, Neeb is in 3 different areas at once. Already killing a dozen workers. Good micro here once again by the American. Honestly, Neeb is playing a fantastic series. Dark has looked nearly unstoppable recently, but this is looking absolutely fantastic right here for him. 14 drones have gone down, an additional Zealot warping in the main base. Dark is forced to split up his units. Finally, it seems like he's cleaned up the majority of the Zealots at his third base, but he's winning the fight over here. Neeb, that is. He's winning the fight in the main base as well. That Lair is in a lot of trouble right now. This is also where Zerg is getting their upgrades. 4th Nexus is going to finish up. Oh, no, actually, that's the 5th Nexus, obviously. Finishing up relatively soon as well. This is 4-base Zerg. Neeb is now ahead in workers. He's ahead in army. He's ahead in every way. That's sick. Yeah, I think that this is a 3-0 win right now for the American Protoss. I mean, he doesn't have to tap out yet, but there's gonna be a follow-up push. And that follow-up push here from Neeb is gonna be absolutely lethal. At the very least, the Zerg player did finish up those upgrades. If he would have lost those upgrades, okay, it would have really sucked. But at this point, Dark is probably looking at the game. He realizes that he's playing a game where he's like 20 workers behind on his opponent. He's a base behind on his opponent. He's got less army. And you're fighting into a Protoss with shield batteries and photon cannons. I don't think it's going to happen. So Neeb ends up winning the ESL Open Cup 134, 3-0 over Dark.